What's up, SC Nation? Welcome back to another AWS fundamentals video, or AWS, what did I call it? A journey from novice to a little bit less novice, which sometimes that's all it takes. I'm continuing my discussion about this. I'm still learning through Cloud Guru. And last time we talked about why cloud to begin with, and this time we're talking about the fundamentals, at least for AWS. I don't know if it's the same for Google, or I'm sure it's the same. But today we're basically talking about regions, autonomous zones. That's a BGP thing. What's the AZ stand for? Jeez. See, that's what's AZ stand for? Availability zone. There you go. See, still trying to figure it out. Anyways, let's talk about this now. I want to go back to our example where some company had a data center. So I'm attempting right now to draw a map of, let's say, North America. And this is not going to look like North America, but let's say this is the north, this is Canada, and then you have whatever. This is the US is huge, looks like two boxes. Don't hold it against me. Well, if you do, do whatever. I'm not judging, or please don't judge me. So we're doing this. And let's say this company, it's a small company. It's located in the northeast, because I'm located out here somewhere in Ottawa, in case you're wondering. This is the northeast, and they have a data center here. Right? It's a small company. So they have their data center there. The problem with that, as far as I know, is sometimes you have lots of strong winds. Ooh, yeah, that's my wind coming through, or hurricanes or tornadoes, whatever. Bam, outage. There's a power outage, and this thing is down, and now you don't have a data center for a day or two. Right? So what do you end up doing? This company might have to have another location, let's say here in the Midwest, where they have another data center so they can stay up and running. Right? Otherwise, they're down. Their services are down. They can no longer sell. If it's an e-commerce store, they cannot sell. And now they have to pay a lot of money to fix it. If it's a just power outage, whatever, it's done. But let's say it's a natural disaster, the whole thing went down, went kaput. Now you have to kind of replace it. So now you don't have redundancy, and now you're paying a lot of money for this one. And I was doing some research before I talked to you, because I do some research. JP Morgan and Chase, in 2012, they spent $500 million on a data center. So this, it might not be JP Morgan and Chase size, but data centers are not cheap. And in 2021, by the way, tell me if you like this color, they spent $2 billion. $2 billion. Yeah, I hope you know that reference. On a data center. So data centers are expensive, and they have to be geographically diverse and all that. And the funny thing about JP Morgan and Chase, according to the article that I saw, which I'll link, everything that I'm doing here, I'm actually creating blog posts for it on WeTheSalesEngineers.com. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to that in the description. You'll get a lot of what I'm saying here. You'll get the links to what I'm referring to. But even for this $2 billion, they're using it mostly for applications which is going to be cloud ready. So am I why are you doing both? But I'm sure they have the reasons, and I'm sure as we learn about AWS, we'll learn more about this. Now, instead of doing that, AWS already offers something like this. So they have what they call as regions. Let's erase all this. Ooh, I erased the United States of America. That's not good. But Canada's still around, because that's where I'm at. I'll redraw it. No worries. Do you think I can? My artistic. Yeah, let's draw it. And this is pink. Let's draw it in red, just so you know that this is a different country from Canada. And it looks like a box. Ugh. All right. So they have what they call regions, and regions is basically like a geographical territory. Bam. So if you go on, like, if you go on like their website, let's see if we can. You would see like you have U.S. East 1, U.S. East 2, like so you have basically two U.S. East regions, 1 and 2, one in North Virginia and one in Ohio. Let me see if I can show that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. So here, you can see here. Let's zoom in. That's not. So let's zoom in here. Bam. So you have north, like this is central Canada. You have AWS region specifically for the government, and you can see that it has 3 availability zones. We'll talk about that in a second. So you have US East 2, which is Ohio, US, that's still the same one, but there's North Virginia right here, and then you have the West, and you have regions all over Europe, like East Asia, and Africa. There's one right here in Cape Town. There's in Australia and New Zealand, Auckland. Yep, coming soon. So they're growing. Right? Now, when we do this, like let's say in North Virginia here, they said, let's see, 3 availability zones, right? In North Virginia, 3 availability zones. And what that means is that they have in North Virginia 3 actual data centers, like the one I just drew, right? And the data centers, I'm drawing one rack, but they can have multiple racks close by to each other, right? So, and they're connected, right? They can talk to each other. So they have 3 availability. Did they have 3 availability zones in? I'm just re-asking the same question over and over. They have 6 availability zones. I will not be able to draw all 6, but basically they're all connected. The latency is fairly low, and all that. And that is for like a bunch of reasons. One of which is latency. Well, like let's say there's a human being here or a company here, and they know that their users are going to be located in this area. It's easier to go to an application which is based out of this North Virginia, this region, versus going all the way to the West Coast to Oregon, for example. So from a latency perspective, from a delay perspective, it's easier to get to be closer. You want to be as close as possible to the end user. If anyone's ever opened a website and it took forever to download, I'm not talking about we the sales engineers, which I'm working on, but in general, it just takes some time to download. And also, not all services are available in every region. So I haven't been able to check, but there's like an availability zone in Bahrain, which I doubt has all the services that are listed for AWS that are available in AWS in let's say North America. But also, like we just talked about a natural disaster where the power went out, right? Now, if the power went out on this one, on this data center within this availability zone, then you have another 2 availability zones that can work. On the other hand, if the whole thing went down, hopefully you have designed redundancy. One of the things that part of AWS certification that we need to know is like secure and redundant and disasters recovery and all that. That's where you can get it. Like you can just, if you have designed it properly, if you have multi-region things, now you can just use a data server. It might not be ideal, it's far away, but you'd still have access to that. So we just talked about regions here. Regions. We talked about availability zones, which are usually referred to as AZs, which is not autonomous systems because systems start with S, but that's a different story. Now, The one thing that I noticed that is on the website, but is not on the like the courses that I've watched, is local zones. Right? I haven't seen them defined in any of the courses, and my understanding of local zones is as follows: um, imagine something that needs very low latency, very low latency, very low jitter, like they call it digital millisecond, single digit, not digital, single digit millisecond latency. And that means it has to run, like we said. Let's say this is Florida. I know Florida is just shaped like something right here. Let's say this is Florida. For someone in Florida or to reach a data center in North Virginia, you're already losing some latency here. So what they do instead is they kind of have like an extension they call a local zone, where they have a data center running here for specific features, for specific processes that you need to run. And that's what it's basically, an extension of an autonomous zone. And my thought process here is it's more expensive, probably, which is why not everybody is using it. It's for those specific, like, if you're in the finance world and you need like milliseconds, or what they call it, digital millisecond latency, then you can use that versus having to go through the like AZ here. What's AZ? Availability zone. Jesus. All right. And then the thing that, so we, all right, this is local zone. And the last thing they discussed is edge locations, which are basically like content delivery networks, CDNs. The service in itself for AWS is called Cloud Front. So this what they do is, if you have a web application or whatever, it caches the information as close as possible to the end user. So instead of the end users trying to access a website, they're going all the way to whatever autonomous system that you have, AZ that you have configured. It's already cached nearby, and they can just use it. And according to the course, there's like 215 edge locations. But again, if you go on to that, I've been drawing and you haven't been seeing it. But if you go into that site, you will see that they have, where is it? 400 plus edge locations. And in case you're wondering what I was drawing, I just wrote down regions, availability zones, local zones, which the Z is not showing. Local zones, edge locations. So, and like, we're talking about the geography of the data centers. That's all we're talking about at this point in time. And we haven't talked about using them. We haven't talked about like why they work. What can you do in them? We're basically saying there are data centers all over the place that you can use at any point in time. You can be in the UK and use autonomous zone in availability zone or region in the US or Canada. I think depending on the account that you have, you may or may not be able to access all of the availability zones. For example, can I just copy it to, let's see if this will work. Nope, this doesn't show anything. Copy image, paste. So if you look here, this is my account for We Sales Engineers. Again, let me make sure you are seeing this one. Yeah, so I have access to all these availability zones, but if you take a look here, there are 10 regions that are not available for your account. So I don't have access to all these down here, and there are more. So I'm located in Canada, so it would be good for me to, I'm in Eastern Canada, so if I were to create a web app or something, I would do it on US East. or Canada Central, but I think US East is closer to me. But I have access. I can create something in Asia Pacific if I feel that my customers are based out of Seoul, for example, and they can access that. So these are some of the things that we wanted to talk about now. So what are the services that can run on this, right? We just talked about a lot of geography. So hopefully now you've learned geography out of this session. But there's also, the services that they run. And there are many services that AWS has, which we talked about. I think we talked about briefly last time. Let me see if I can delete this. Okay. But the main ones are we talked about compute. There's so basically if you want to run a VM on a server, or there's a bunch of other stuff, but let's say you want to run a Linux VM, or you want to add access to a Linux server, you can just run a Linux VM in the compute, and that's considered compute, right? On the other end, there's storage. So like your computer, you have SSDs, you have HDs. Same thing with AWS. They have SSDs, they have HDs, they have specific storage used for application A, specific storage used for application B. So they're all there. There's also databases. Most web apps have databases. If you want to log in, if you want to give customer logins, those are installed in a database. If you're selling stuff and the inventory is stored somewhere, that's stored in a database. So you have all that. And you have also networking, because you don't want to give everybody access to everything. Like, from my understanding, you have like the web app where customers can log in. So customers can network into here, but then the web app is talking to a bunch of stuff in the background. Could be storage, could be databases as well, to gather information, and you don't want to give everybody access to this. So you have to do something with the networking. And speaking of access, was there one more thing? No, that's pretty much it. And then speaking of access, right? When you had a data center in the past, whoever had access to whoever knew the IP of the server, internal IP or external IP, the management IP, or can physically go in and log into, plug in their computer to that, would have access to it. But now it's somewhere located with Amazon's database. How do you access that? Well, that's where IAM comes in. So identity and access management. So that's something we talk about as well. And also with that, everything in the past was the organization's responsibility. It's like companies had the main job that they have, which is, let's say it's a bank. Their job was to sell banking stuff and to have an IT organization running on the side. They still kind of do, but they don't have to take care of the hardware, take care of the location, find new warehouses to build the databases. But that comes with some responsibility. It used to be all the responsibility of the organization. Now there's shared responsibility between AWS and the organizations that are using them, their AWS's clients. And this is from their website. Again, if you go to We the Sales Engineers, I'll leave a link in the bottom. I'll leave a link below. You will see that there's customers' responsibility and AWS responsibility. And if I were to summarize it based on my understanding, is everything a customer can control is their responsibility. So their data, if they're running an operating system on top of a VM and they have the right to patch it, they need to patch it. If they're running a web app that they need to update that. Encryption and decryption. AWS is responsible for everything else, basically. So the hardware, where they build their data centers. If there's a natural disaster and the data center goes down, they will move your stuff, or you, if you built it properly, you move your stuff to another availability zone. AWS has to go and fix everything. So it's kind of a, they call it a shared model, a shared responsibility model. Right? Again, I'll leave a link to that in the blog, if you will, or if you will not. Here, let me see if. And like all this is in the course. Why? Why are you doing that? All this is in the course. It's not. Just happened. Yeah, I'm kind of learning this as we go. Let's see, copy. I just really want to show you that webpage. Okay, so there's a lot of information in the course. So if you go watch Stefan Marik or the Cloud Guru course, they have a lot of information. But what they've basically done is take information off of AWS and summarize it in a way that you understand. So you can take a look at AWS. They have a lot of information, like controls, shared controls, customer specific, and they also have a lot of like articles that will give you headaches for days. But basically, that's it. That's it for today. Right? That's what I wanted to talk about. My next blog, my next video, I am covering IAM, which is basically the first thing you would need. Like if you wanted to access AWS, you basically need to know how to access it. You can't do anything without actually knowing IAM. So yeah, that's it for me for today. I hope you liked this video. I hope you're following my journey of learning and struggling, basically, to be a little bit less of a novice and get back to work. Peace. Let's try this here. I want to say goodbye to you in full page. Peace.